I'm Sith King.
And I'm Sonic Sons.
And today we're looking at the Metroid series, franchise of games.
Also, we are the Rambling Reviewers. We changed it up on you. Everyone's confused. All right.
Just like we are.
Yes.
What's Metroid?
What's Metroid? Just like I was 10 seconds ago, and you're all like, hey, you want to record something about Metroid? I'm like, there was a Metroid movie? What? I have this whole plan in my head. No one consulted me.
Yeah, but anyway, so, Metroid is a game that was originally released for...
The NES.
The NES, Nintendo Entertainment System. It was about Samus Aran, this bounty hunter, although you're going to have to explain this to me, because I do not understand what she's a bounty hunter of, because you never, capture anyone, or...
Yeah, it's more of a mercenary. And even then, that doesn't translate it quite right, because it's I guess, a mercenary with honor. She gets hired to kill things, but she only ever kills things that deserve to die. So when they were developing Metroid Prime 3, I think it was, there was an American team at that point, wasn't it?
Possibly, I don't know.
I forget who it was. I remember them saying they wanted to have Samus go out on bounty hunts. You would have, a little menu of hunts that you can do. They each pay a certain number of, energy points or something. And then you go kill your quarry, bring him back, do whatever you had to do, and get paid for it.
That sounds awesome! Why didn't they do that?
Well, because Nintendo objected and explained that their concept that had been translated as bounty hunter wasn't really someone who goes around and just kills things to get as much money as possible. This is someone who's trying to make the galaxy a better place, and money is incidental. So that did not fit their idea of what Samus is.
Oh.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome!
Well, my version of Samus is awesome too. Maybe we'll get to that movie idea.
Okay, well, anyway, so the first game, Metroid, you go down into this planet, you find upgrades, and apparently Samus goes down and she has the shittiest suit imaginable. Seriously, your gun's range is roughly 2 feet.
At the beginning it is, yeah, it sucks. It sucks.
So the first thing you have to do is walk to one side and jump over a hill so you can get your first upgrade, which is necessary for proceeding to any degree in the game.
And it morphs you into a little ball, because why not?
But this always confuses me. Why did Samus do that? I'm going to go down... Look, in Metroid Zero Mission, a recreation of the game, a remake of the game, it includes a whole second part of the game after you win the final boss fight, making air quotation marks there. And Samus has an emergency pistol with her. The emergency pistol actually has more range than your main weapon.
You forget that they're not thinking of this in terms of plot or internal consistency at all. It was just a game with a series of challenges. That's how games were back then.
Okay, but let's assume that that's true. Why does your gun not at least reach more than 2... Why
2
is
feet,
it...
Yeah,
yeah, that's who does that?
They do that so that you can be all frustrated about it and then get the long shot and be like, oh yeah, I could shoot to the edge of the screen, which is what I felt when I got that thing.
Yes, I have infinite range now because I can shoot further than the shallow end of the pool.
Yay! Yep. That's the idea. That is such an involved game, let me tell you. I played it as a kid and could never beat it. So recently, a month ago, I bought it on Wii Virtual Console, and I thought, this will be great. I've already played through and beaten Super Metroid, which is an awesome game, really historical game, or historic game, whatever. And I thought, I'll play through Old School Metroid, which I just sort of vaguely assumed would be easier, because I'm an idiot. And it's so much harder. You have to spend, serious amounts of time on farming, which is when you're really low on health. You have to just walk through this one hallway 100 times, killing dudes and getting minor energy, so you can build up enough energy to actually go face that hard area where everything is killing you all the time. Because when you respawn, this is standard in video games now. After you die, you come back at your save point or whatever with full health. That's the way it is in Metroid Prime. No. You don't come back with full health. You come back with 30 points of health. On a total scale of 400 or 500, depending on how many energy packs you have. So it's bad enough at first. The first time you die, you come back with 30. You're like, well, at least that's 30% of my maximum. And then it becomes like so much less than that, and you either get frustrated and you're like, this sucks and it's too hard, or you adopt this sense of discipline. Like, I need to farm as efficiently as possible now. You actually learn, like, where are the best spots for farming? It's like you're learning the landscape, you know. What are the guys I can shoot quickest that'll get me the energy points fastest? And I have to keep my focus, because if I fall into, like, a pit of lava or something, I could lose all my progress. You have to have this Zen-like mindset, almost, which is the epitome of Nintendo hard, I guess. It's pretty cool. And pretty frustrating. I'm so lost. Like, I really should have. This is my tip to you people. Get pen and paper and make a map of this place as you go.
Which later games would add in their own map system, and Metroid did pioneer what's today known as the Metroidvania system of gameplay, which is it drops you into what is essentially a gigantic maze, and you have to find your way through.
Go back and forth and get upgrades, basically, and fight lots of monsters along the way.
Yeah, pioneered by the Metroid and the Castlevania series of games. So, yeah, the first game is pretty hard. Metroid Zero Mission made it significantly easier, I have to say.
But I think I've explored. I feel like I've explored every nook and cranny thus far. Like, I finally got it mapped out in my head, and they're all dead ends. So I know one of these at least is not a dead end, but I don't know which one. I'll go over here, and I'll go over here, and I'm too stubborn to look it up. I have to figure it out myself. This is so hard. So, that is a certain type of gameplay that has gone out of favor, where things are really hard, but in a fair way, and they're hard on purpose. So, like, only the really dedicated will ever beat this thing. Nowadays, you're expected to beat a game in the way you're expected to finish a book. You write the book, you expect that most people will read through to the end. Now that's the way games work. It used to be, hey, you want to beat this thing?
Fuck you.
Good luck. Yeah, this is going to take a while. This is really going to, make a map. Learn the terrain. I learned, like, basically algorithms, where I'm like, okay, that guy, what do they call those things? A little vertical tube where a guy will come out vertically and then shoot at you horizontally.
I don't know, spawn points or
there's little spawn. They'll do this almost indefinitely, which is fun. When they first come out, you're like, oh, I'll shoot it. And then, wait, there's another one. I'll shoot. There's another one. There's another one. And you die. And then eventually you learn, like, okay, if I shoot enough of them, eventually it'll just die and leave, like, an energy ball, and then I can grab that, and then more will spawn. And then you realize, oh, if there's one spawning and there's this little pillar right next to it, I can do this bit where I stand on the pillar and shoot it, and then I have to jump backwards when he goes over my head, and then I jump forwards, and then one of them dies and leaves an energy ball. But don't pick up the energy ball, because if you do, they'll start respawning again. You have to run past the ever so seductive energy ball, and don't touch it while you get to the other end of the room. And then when you get there, make sure you go into ball mode when you go through the door, because the thing will respawn behind you, and then it will come at you, and even though you are going through the door and shifting between rooms, it will kill you. So you have to be in ball mode so you're too short to die. And you have to teach yourself all of this. There technically was an instruction manual, but only with the very basics. There's no strategy here. You learn by experience. That's interesting. That's, man.
So the plot of the first one is essentially very simple. You go down into these caverns, and because I know you said that wasn't the point of the games, but I have to complain because Samus essentially goes down buck-ass naked. Let's face it, it would have been better if she went down buck-ass naked, because at least she could have been holding a stick or something.
At least she could throw rocks further than 2 feet.
Yeah, seriously. Why does she think that she can do this? And worse, when you start in Zero Mission, you have a map screen, okay? And eventually you can explore more and explore more. You eventually find your ship. Your ship is like half a mile away, and yet you start in this one room. Meaning Samus had to go through all of this, either had to go through all of this areas and stand at this one spot for the game to start. Meaning she went and cleared all of this area without any weapons worth a damn, and without any abilities, and then just decided to stand in this one spot until the player takes control. Or the ship has a teleporter, and Samus just never uses it again, ever.
I like to believe that, like, actual Samus is just so much more badass than you are. She just demonstrates this badassery by clearing all those rooms during the title screen.
Okay, so and then you go down and you find Kraid and Ridley, who are the leader of who are like the leaders of the space pirates, and then you go down into the bottom level of the game and you fight and destroy Mother Brain, which causes the planet to want to explode for reasons.
Yay!
Load-bearing boss. Do you know what the plot of Metroid 2 was? Was that Super Metroid?
I think there was a Metroid 2, and it's kind of been forgotten because it was weird. I will go look it up. In the meantime, tell them about Super Metroid.
I don't know about Super Metroid.
You don't know about Super Metroid. We're doing a Metroid video. Super Metroid was okay. So
I know about the modern Metroid.
Metroid 2 was on the Game Boy. That's right. I'm just looking this up. And oh yeah, the Varia suit got the distinctive huge shoulders, and that's
I like those.
Yeah, those are so visually cool, even though they seem impractical. But then again, if she's in a tight space, she can somehow morph into a small ball. So what do you know? So that was Metroid 2. Wait. We gotta talk about one of the most historic aspects of the original Metroid. Samus is a girl.
Oh, yep. It was the first time ever one of the first times ever that it was revealed that a major video game character was, in fact, female.
And they didn't tell you the whole time. In Japanese, the instruction booklet is written with gender-neutral pronouns, because they have those.
Yeah.
And in the English language, they just use male pronouns, so as not to spoil the surprise. And then you get to the very end, and she takes off her helmet, and it's like, pray for peace in space up ahead. But no one's paying attention to that, because they're like, wait, that character was a girl the whole time? And what a great way to get people to accept a feminist idea, is to just not even mention it until you've already established through your entire months-long experience of beating this game that she is a badass. And you're like, oh, I guess the badass can be female. All right, then.
Alternately, that this character that is made of explodium, who gets lost extremely easily and decides to go venturing in a cave with a 2-foot ranged gun, is a moron.
Probably
women can be just as stupid as men.
Yeah, probably not the idea they were going for.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was.
Well, they didn't want me to get that idea. They should have given me a better gun.
In the later games, what they do is she starts off with a bunch of cool stuff, and then for some reason loses it in the first 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I'm more familiar with Metroid 4, the Metroid Prime games, and Metroid Zero Mission.
Is there a Metroid 4?
Yeah, Metroid Fusion.
Oh.
It's Metroid 4.
Okay,
so tell them about Super Metroid.
So Super Metroid is a bigger and better version of the original Metroid. Much more detailed graphics, oh my goodness. A map system, so you're not horribly lost all the time. Playing around with things. I love this. Initially, you're on this one ship, and you fight Ridley briefly, and then he flees, and then it's like, oh, the whole thing's gonna blow up. So you're running to get out, and you're going up like this big vertical shaft, and then the whole shaft starts tilting back and forth. And you suddenly have to learn how to platform on an angle, like, as it's changing. You're like, okay, this thing really is blowing up. I get the message. Thank you. I'd say Super Metroid is for if you don't want to really go to classic Nintendo hard, but you want the feeling of Metroid, Metroidvania. That's the spot for you, because it's got a good, clear learning curve. You're brought to this challenge and then that challenge. And it's always a challenge, but enough that you know what you're kind of supposed to do. And so you go from thing to thing to thing and eventually get a whole bunch of upgrades and go save the world and everything. And blow it up at the same time.
And that leads us to Metroid 4, because apparently in Metroid 3 there was a baby Metroid that Ridley kidnapped or something. And the baby Metroid sacrificed itself.
Well, this is actually part of Super Metroid.
What?
The whole baby Metroid thing was part of Super Metroid.
Yeah, I know. I was giving some backstory because you didn't mention it.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But it's super important for Metroid 4. Anyways, in Metroid 4, they travel back to SR-388, which is the original home of the creature known as the Metroid. That's right. The main character, Samus, is not a Metroid. Metroids are like these giant jellyfish things with fangs that suck out your life energy.
So it's a villain title, as they say.
Yeah. But anyway, so SR-388 was the primary homeworld of the Metroids. And scientists were wondering, why does it feed on life force? Well, it's still not explained, but it revealed that they actually had another food source, a parasite known as the X parasite, because it can become anything. And since Samus wiped out the last of the Metroids, the X have kind of taken over SR388. They can take the form of any creature that they've infected before, and they reproduce asexually. Samus blows up an X parasite, masquerading as a frog thing, and the X infects her. So, unfortunately, they have to remove all of her armor's most powerful components because her armor is partially organic technology, and they inject her with a serum made from Metroid DNA that they had left over from the baby.
I think this needs to be a trope. I want to call it, like, blood of the enemy. You know, like how Blade was half vampire, and a bunch of people are, like, halfway of that thing they're trying to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Metroid 4 was the first of the side-scrolling Metroid games to have a mission-based thing. Meaning that instead of just wandering around the plot is that Samus is brought back. She's lost a lot of her more advanced abilities and stuff. But she gets a new suit, and she keeps the long beam for once.
Yay!
And she has to go to this space station where the X-parasites have taken over. Good news is that now that you have Metroid DNA inside of you, you can absorb X-parasites and turn them into ammo or into health for you. And you can absorb them and eat them as food. Bad news is that they've taken over the entire goddamn station.
I always do that.
And you have no upgrades, which really pisses me off because they always do this. So you have to go through taking orders from the ship's AI, which she names Adam after her former commanding officer. And it's eventually revealed that there's some sort of conspiracy going on. Also, the organic parts of Samus's battlesuit have grown into a full version of her battlesuit with her inside, and it's called the SAX. And it can kill you. And it will kill you.
It's the worst saxophone ever. Whatever. Trying to make a pun after XAX.
No. Okay, so it eventually turns out that part of the reason the SAX has been seen patrolling around the station is because the government was using this place to clone Metroids for use in weapons. Okay. Eventually, Samus realizes, hey, the X-parasites are too virulent. And if they got out into the galaxy, they'd take over the entire galaxy in a matter of days. This doesn't go over well with her government superiors, so eventually she smashes the station into SR388, destroying all remnants of the X species. Okay.
I can't comment very much when I haven't played the game. I'm just like letting you give all the details.
Okay, the good news... And they do make several plot improvements in the Metroid games in this one. First off, you're not battling through Chozo ruins picking up convenient artifacts or upgrades. And they do give an explanation for why some of the absorbing certain X-parasites will give you suit abilities. Because these X-parasites were based on pieces of your suit, and by absorbing them back, you get abilities back. And the government also has special rooms inside the place that allow you to download weapons and upgrades from their central command. So they actually do have some of your abilities on file, so you know they have them reverse engineered, so it's not like all this lost technology that you keep losing over and over again.
It's the trouble with making a series like this, you know. It's like, wow, we keep always losing that.
Yeah, which brings us to Metroid Prime.
Metroid Prime, when it went 3D, first person, totally different, but still have the same soul.
It was the first entry into the Metroid games that were 3D, unless you were to count Super Smash Brothers. But
no, it's not a Metroid game.
Yeah, but it had Samus in it. Whatever. Anyways, it was a first-person shooter, and it really helped bring the game Metroid back into the public consciousness. In fact, it was released at the same time as Metroid Fusion, and if you could link your Game Boy up to connect it to...
Right, I remember they were advertising that in a bunch of games.
You could unlock the original Metroid and play it in Metroid Prime.
That's nice.
And... No, you could play it on the Game Boy, or you could wear the Samus suits, Samus's fusion suit in Metroid Prime. I'm rambling a little bit, but that's kind of our name. But if there's one thing I have to criticize the original Metroid Prime for, among many things, because I can never have just one complaint.
I like the game.
Okay, I like it too. It's an absolutely beautiful game, but it doesn't have much story unless you're like us and you use the scan visor to scan absolutely everything.
That was what's so great about it, though.
That was so great about it.
I loved that when he first walked. I'd never seen flavor text like this ever in a game, and you could scan everything, and they'd like tell you the mission. You know, like scan this computer, and the space pirates will like have a half completed log about whatever we're gonna do. This certain project, and then this was a delay, and at one point I remember there's a computer thing that says, "Oh, we tried to replicate Samus's morph ball technology, and we've killed 6 of our men thus far." You're like, wow, that's a gruesome off-screen image. You could scan like the war wasps, and they would mention how they build their nests by secreting this certain fluid from their abdomens. There was a statue. Like, what happens here in gameplay-wise, it's just a regular old platform. You jump on it, and you jump to something else. But they happen to decide, you know what? This platform is going to be a big old statue from the Chozo world, and it's holding, like, this disc, and you can scan it, and it mentions how the disc represents the plane of existence. And you had this sense that there was, like, religion to the Chozo world.
I know, and I love this. I love that. My problem was that unless you do that religiously, a lot of the game felt just like any other Metroid game. Just, you wander around, you find these upgrades that are just lying around here, and occasionally you bump into some space pirates.
Yeah, but if you're the sort of person who likes story, you will be scanning it. If you don't like story, guess what? You get to skip it.
Yeah, it's just I wish there was a little more, a
little more story?
Little more direct story. Like they say, okay, Metroid Prime 2 was a little better in that regard.
Yeah, it didn't much matter to me. Like, there was those Federation guys that had crash landed and stuff, and the light and dark worlds and things.
The light and dark... Metroid Prime 2... Okay, Metroid Prime 1 is the beginning of the Phazon trilogy of Metroid games. Or the Metroid Prime trilogy, but whatever. The story begins that Samus lands on this planet after disrupting a pirate thing, and because of an explosion, she loses all her shit. Of course. But anyways, so she has to go around, and eventually she finds that this planet has something called Phazon on it. The ancient Chozo were infected by this Phazon, and so they tried to seal away the impact crater.
Yeah, basically, Phazon makes things evil.
It mutates. It's somehow acidic, but it's a metal, and it's energy, and it's...
It makes things evil.
It slices, it dices. Yeah, so anyways, so you had to fight against the Phazon and stuff, and got this sense that something is going on. And eventually you fought Metroid Prime, the title of the game. It was this Super Metroid thing that the pirates had been experimenting with in like a 2-stage battle. And eventually, at the end of the game, it steals your Phazon resistance suit modification, and you have to run for your life. And it's suddenly, like at the end of the game, if you get 100%, it sticks its hand out, because now it has like Samus' suit, so now it looks like Samus.
It becomes Dark Samus.
Which you meet in Metroid Prime 2. In Metroid Prime 2, you go to this planet and you find Phazon. Well, for some reason, when a Phazon meteor hit this planet... instead of just leaving an impact crater, it somehow split it into 2 dimensions that constantly overlapped with one another. And it's devolved into a war between the light side, Luminoth, and the dark world Ing, which have the ability to possess things.
Guess which one is more evil?
Yeah. So your goal in the game is to go back and forth between these 2 worlds, gather all the upgrades, because, again, you lose all your upgrades in like 10 minutes of landing on the frickin' planet.
Yep, you do.
Yeah, because she gets jumped by a bunch of Ing in the dark world or something, whatever. At the same time, you're fighting Dark Samus, who goes through 3 or 4 distinct transformations. And you get the sense that Dark Samus doesn't like you, and that Phazon... Yes. And the pirates are here studying Phazon as well. So you get the sense that Phazon is more than it really appears to be, because it has so many different uses. So
it's phlebotinum, and it's evil.
Which brings us to Metroid Prime 3. It was the first It was the only one released on the Wii, meaning that you could, which really improved the, what's it called? Aiming, yeah. Pirates, it begins with Samus interacting with a bunch of other bounty hunters, which I really liked. You know, they were other characters who weren't trying to kill you. That's a really cool thing.
Some variety, yeah.
So anyways, they fend off a pirate attack on this human base for the Federation or whatever. But all the mercs get infected with Phazon, including Samus. And it includes this interesting new mechanic where you can temporarily sacrifice like a tank of your health so that you can get this super mode. And you run around these worlds where different Phazon meteors have impacted on those planets. Except it turns out that it wasn't accident. Phazon is a sentient metal.
Oh.
And
I didn't actually beat this one, so...
Oh, okay. So Phazon is actually a sentient metal, and it tries to corrupt people into doing what it wants.
What does it want?
To spread and expand, like a virus. Well, anyways, so it's been sending out these things called Leviathans, which are essentially Phazon meteors that are self-guided. Anyways, so Samus's mission is to go to these different planets and destroy the Leviathans on them to disrupt the Phazon's growth on those planets. Eventually, this takes you to the pirate homeworld, where you capture a Leviathan and take it all the way back to the Phazon homeworld of Phase. Yes, they were creative. At which point, you proceed to fight Dark Samus for the last time and a Phazon-infused Mother Brain.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Then they blow up the Phazon homeworld, and all Phazon everywhere is destroyed forever because it's the end of the trilogy, that's why. And that brings us to the most controversial game in the Metroid franchise.
The one that everyone hates.
You know what? I didn't mind it. It was okay. Metroid... What was it?
Metroid Other M, which the initials spell out Mom, which is actually the theme of the game, but I handle it in a very clunky way, as I recall.
Yeah. I have actually never beaten this game.
Yeah, I've never played. I just watched I watched the opening cutscene once, and I was like, yeah, this sucked. I don't know if this is a problem with the actress or the director. Could be either. Could be both. But Samus sounds so dang wooden. And by the way, she speaks now. Normally, she doesn't speak at all.
Unless she got hit or something. And that was just in the Metroid Prime game.
It was just like, she didn't say words. But now she, rambles on about stuff and just sounds like she has no emotion. Now, I'll say something, actually, because I have this whole epic idea for a trilogy of movies in my head. And how I would portray Samus, she is a loner. She doesn't have a support team, really. She doesn't have a mission control she goes back to. I imagine her as someone who doesn't talk to people much. That's just not her personality. She prefers to be alone, to be with, the beasts, and to handle them independently. And so she probably isn't someone who expresses herself very loudly, because she doesn't care what other people think.
Unless expressing yourself counts as super missiles.
Yeah, well, yeah, that is somewhat different.
I am expressing my dissatisfaction with you, Ridley.
So I have this image of Samus as being somewhat zen-like, very focused, and subtle. But there's a difference between subtle and robotic, and they went too far into that area and got to robotic.
This game actually serves as a prequel to Metroid Fusion. There's a different space station, and Samus goes aboard it because reasons I can't remember why.
Because it's there!
Yeah, so anyways. Oh yeah, because the station went dark, because it's a biological research center like the last station that in Metroid Fusion, but whatever.
These things are always going dark for terrible reasons.
Anyways, but the Federation is there too, and they don't like Samus for some reason, and it's led by Samus's old commanding officer, Adam. Oh no! And Adam goes, hey, look, I don't like you for reasons. So while you're here on Federation space, you have to follow my orders. What this actually means is I'm not going to allow you to use any of your advanced abilities.
Now this is a point about how plots work. It's like if you're trying to make something in a medium which is all about plot, you plan it out in advance so it makes sense in terms of plot. If you're planning out games, though, the primary idea is it to be a game. then the plot can all too easily get tangled up in those constraints. What we've seen thus far is that every time a new game starts, we have to come up with an excuse as to why Samus is losing her abilities again, right? So you can have the fun of gaining them back. Because what else are we going to do? Like, you start off with all the weapons, like, oh, okay.
The game Metroid Prime Hunters actually did try to address that. If you put on too many abilities, your suit would lose energy really fast and you'd go super slowly.
Well, yeah, that's one way to do it.
But then that doesn't really bring into account the fact that by the end of the Metroid games, you're essentially a god made flesh walking around dispensing death to anything stupid enough to...
Right, so you simply cannot have Samus keep those weapons, but then it becomes sort of hokey as you realize, wow, every single game we have to lose those weapons. And then they thought, oh, let's make it a little more creative. Instead of her getting caught out in an explosion, it'll be her commanding officer tells her not to do that. But now this becomes stupid all of a sudden. So it's almost like, don't even have continuity if you can't do it well. I guess that's what I'm saying. Just be like, whatever, it's Samus, we're not even going to tell you when this is happening, and she just doesn't have the weapons for some reason.
Yeah,
go.
The excuse they give in game is that they don't want Samus stumbling around and breaking shit, which
is her job.
Actually, I kind of have to agree with them. That's most of the places that Samus goes to eventually explode for largely no reason. Actually, Metroid Fusion, she breaks her record because not only does she destroy the space station, she destroys a planet as well by slamming the space station into the planet while activating the self-destruct, which destroys the planet.
That is a badass self-destruct, Master.
I know, I said that too.
What is that, like the Dr. Device or something?
I know. But anyway, so I can kind of understand what the problem is. So the basic plot is that Samus is looking for survivors and looking for members of these teams that went in but aren't responding now because they're not as good as Samus. In other news, water is wet. And part of the plot is that you see this small fuzzy creature running around, and it has this weird shrieky beak thing. It has a beak and it shrieks.
Is it a chocobo?
It looks kind of like a chocobo. Eventually you learn that this is in fact a baby Ridley.
What?
And that it bites other creatures and it turns them evil.
Why do we even bother having a plot if it's gonna suck?
Yeah, so eventually... But what really sucks about this is that in between levels, you have to listen to Samus whining about how, oh, my parents are dead, and oh, Adam was mean to me in boot camp, and oh, I was never treated the same because I was a woman. Okay, look, Samus, sweetie, honey baby, we don't give a fuck about your past. Well, if we wanted to hear about people whining about how they don't have parents anymore, I'd read Batman. If I wanted to, wanted to read about terrible horror stories about boot camp, I would play Halo, or read the Halo Expanded Universe novels. If I wanted to read about a woman trying to make it in a man's world, I would read Wonder Woman. I don't do any of those things because I don't feel like it, but also because you're Samus. You don't talk. That's kind of your whole character thing.
Wait. Yeah, let's clarify this for a second, lest somebody think that you're saying women should not talk. What we're saying is not that it's bad to revisit a character's struggles and so forth. What matters is how the character interprets those struggles and deals with them. Now, Samus, being the stoic badass that she is, should perhaps think about certain things, and it could just be a flashback, and then we're back to the game. And she doesn't whine. Like, yes, that happened. Now I will kill some stuff. You know, or she's learned something from these experiences. She's become stronger. Not this, I'm whining sort of
crawling feeling. In my skin. And I noticed they make her sound like she's so fragile and emotionally vulnerable. You blew up like 3 planets.
Right. She should be emotionally strong. She should be like, I've been through hell and here I stand.
Yeah, and occasionally the game will just grind to a frickin' halt because suddenly Samus sees something. And you have to find where on the screen the thing is with your Wiimote, and it's like a thing 1 pixel wide.
I hate that.
So you click on the thing like 5-6 times, and then you look up at the thing. You were supposed to click on that thing. Oh, I'm sorry, I was clicking 1 pixel to the left. And so you click on it again, and it's like, oh, thank God, I was like the sole survivor or something.
It makes it worse when they force the gameplay to a halt to make it happen. I was praising earlier the Prime thing. If you're not into story, you can skip it. They should have done it with Metroid Other M. They should be like, hey, you got to this zone, you've unlocked, Samus Diary number 4. Go listen to it if you feel like it. And she would explain what had happened to her in the past. And then if you didn't feel like it, you don't listen to it. It's fine.
And part of the gameplay I did approve of. It actually had 2 modes of gameplay. The first was that it was like a side-scrolling Metroid game where you controlled Samus from a third-person point of view using the Wiimote, and you had her walk around on a 2-dimensional plane that would wrap around sometimes. But like you could go off the rails a little bit to find upgrades and stuff, which was pretty cool. And then you could switch to a first-person point of view for like Metroid Prime style shooting. The problem is that when you're in Metroid Prime style shooting, you can't move at all, which is why I haven't beaten the game, because one of the final bosses, towards the end of the game bosses, is this Metroid that constantly spawns other Metroids. So you're walking, so you have to run as fast as you can away from all these Metroids. Then you have to get into first-person mode, and you try to shoot all the Metroids before you're overwhelmed, but you can't do it because that would involves shooting them with a certain type of attack pattern. And by that time that happens, a Metroid is already grabbed onto you, and you can't see because there's a Metroid grabbing your face. So you have to turn into ball mode, drop a bomb so it lets go. And then you have to run away from those Metroids, but by that time, the Metroids you did kill have been respawned by the big boss Metroid, which is still trying to claw your face off.
So there's basically no way out.
Yeah, there's no way out. I couldn't do it. And they say, oh, it's easy. You just do this, this, and this. I can't do that. So I have no idea how the game ends.
I heard that it sucks.
I do not doubt it.
Yeah.
Look, I approve of what it was trying to do. Give Samus a sense of story and backstory that the games don't really cover as much. Not to mention, try to go back to the old style, but while trying to keep true to the new style. Problem is, they didn't do it well at all.
Devil's in the details, isn't it? Yeah. So that's that. And as far as I know, no other Metroid game has been announced.
Yeah.
So hopefully the next one will be better.
Yeah.
It'll have the initials of Dad or something. I have no idea. No, don't initial anything. Just Metroid awesome. There's your next title. No, wait, that says Ma. Dang it. Like Mama.
Okay. So you had your thoughts.
So I had my thoughts. Oh my gosh.
Keep going on.
Gee. Part of me is like, these ideas are so epic. I should just keep them under wraps so I can eventually sell them to Nintendo or something. But like, okay, what is that really gonna happen in the near future? All right? Let's see what I can get here, and I don't really have it organized, and see what we can do. I would like to do a Metroid movie. I think you could do so much exploring Samus's character. I have this imagined in my head that you'd have to like write the script or write all 3 scripts because it's a trilogy in my head, and you'd then just wait until you can find the actress that can play Samus. So it's just to revisit what I said earlier. Samus has almost a zen-like quality to her, a sort of serenity. Not in the sense of, like, a floatiness, like, and now we are zen. Oh, now we... No, that's not Samus. She's got to have a hard edge to her. But not hard edge, like, gritty, like, now I will kill things. Like, no. It's Samus. It's possibly the best place you'll find it is in certain portrayals of samurai, where they have the blade, and they have this great focus to them, and they're very deadly... and they're not like bloodthirsty, I want to kill things, but nor are they like peaceful and whatever. I don't care. They're clearly involved with this sense of control and focus. Yeah, Samurai Jack is a good place to start. Yeah, without speaking in that accent or any of that.
Oh,
I have that Samus is distant but not cold. It's not that she's like feels superior to other people and wants to get away from them and stuff. It's
even though she is.
But she's not arrogant about it. She's just a natural loner. Again, what I said, one of the first things I got from the games is that there's no one there. There's no support system. Mario even had a Luigi, and a Toad to talk to now and then.
Yeah, he had like you hit blocks and then you eat the mushrooms and there was even infrastructure where like warp pipes and stuff. That proved that someone else was around, at least.
Well, I guess.
Am I misunderstanding what you said?
I was talking about characters interacting with other characters, not whether or not an infrastructure exists. So Samus is a loner, and I thought she's a very natural loner. This is just her core personality. She likes to be on her own. There's something almost quasi-religious about the experience of going off into the wild and killing things that deserve to die, and, being completely self-reliant. And it's not an arrogance thing, and it's not, trying to prove herself to somebody else thing or whatever. It's just like, this is the way it must be done. This is the best way to do it. I had her backstory. Now, in the games, she used to work for the Federation, and she was a soldier and quit and became a bounty hunter. I just skipped the whole soldier thing, because it involves her being a member of a group like that and following orders and stuff, and I can't see her doing that. Probably should we go around? Oh yeah, the other thing I want to say is none of these seemingly contradictions. She has a sense of dignity without being regal about it. Regal has to show off, and I have this ermine cape and everything, and this is just a quiet dignity, and again, sort of gets back to the Samurai Jack type of thing. Of having a focus and a mission.
Unless she's blowing up planets.
Even then, she does it in this awesomely way. It's kind of hard to describe.
Yeah, you cannot say she blew up the planets, but in a quiet sort of way.
Right.
Okay. Fire the Death Star when ready, but turn on the mute. Oh, we blew up the planets. Couldn't you tell? Oh, there was no noise.
Speaking of noise, I imagine she often just doesn't speak. First off, there's no one to speak to. And secondly, when she does speak, she's very quiet, but not in a shy way. Just in a sort of a voice that commands a presence without needing to shout. Just stay here. I'll destroy them.
Which would make sense. It said that she was raised by the Chozo, correct?
Yes.
And that the Chozo are now extinct, right? So
sort of, yeah. I'll get to that.
When she's around, when they adopted her, they had to have been on the severe decline. So there probably weren't a whole lot of Chozo to talk to. She probably spent a lot of her days just alone, even when there were other Chozo around.
I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. Right. So my intro here's how I would intro the first movie, which is. At the moment, I decided I was going to call the trilogy Samus instead of Metroid, to distinguish it from the games. And why not name it after the main character, right? And by the way, I pronounce it Aran, not Aaron, because Aaron is an actual normal name. Samus Aran sounds better. So the Samus trilogy, and the first one was entitled The Empty Fortress. And I might change it. I've already changed it once before. But the intro is going to be some space pirates in like an underground base somewhere, and we just see things from their perspective. And there's these guys in some command room, which is at the back of the base, and there's alarms blaring, and they're starting to freak out, and people are grabbing weapons, and we see there's like this 6-year-old boy that they've apparently taken prisoner in the midst of all this. And we get to see Samus's awesomeness from the perspective of her enemies. You haven't even seen Samus yet, you don't know exactly who she is or what she's capable of, but suddenly half the lights go out, and then this...
Film it like a horror movie.
Like a horror movie, basically, for their perspective.
One of the key traits of horror films is that they remove the sense of control from the audience. So, remove the sense of control from these space pirates. Film them almost like characters in a horror movie, except not as stupid.
Yeah. Sort of like that. So
you see the perspective of this pirate officer, and he's like, come on, we have to get her, we have to... Where'd Joey go? Where'd Joey go? And he's just gone.
Right. Stuff like that.
And then you turn the wall, and it's like his guts are splattered halfway across the wall, but it's also coated in ice.
Because he used the ice beam, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, the pirates have their own language, which I was going to make really full of consonants and weird sounds. Sort of like that.
Not terribly creative. I mean, that's...
Yeah, I know, but whatever. If you get the details right, it'll feel new and fresh. Anyway, so they're freaking out, and they got this boy, and someone pushes him to the side, make sure we keep him and everything. And then half the lights go out, and then they have this huge metal door that just blasts off its hinges all of a sudden, and Samus runs into the room, but half the time she's cloaked in shadow, right? The horror movie thing, like you were saying. And I have this sense when she goes into combat, she does not do the freaking thing that almost every action hero does, where they get behind like a pillar or something, and then they pop out and they shoot a few times, and they go back and they pop out again, and then they no, she keeps moving. She has this control of the situation by leaving her enemies permanently off balance. They never know entirely where she is. You're the audience going like, wait, she went there, now she jumped this way. She'll lob like a grenade or something at one area, which flushes a guy out from his previous hiding spot. And as he's as the grenade flies, she turns and fires at a guy on the other side of the room, then jumps over something, then points at the spot where the first guy is about to jump away from the grenade, fires a bolt in anticipation of him moving in that direction, and he just jumps into it, right? Like, she knows everyone's psychology type of thing. Just constantly improvising and just in control of the situation. And they're all freaking out, and the one of the last space pirates grabs the kid, and he's got his hand his arm rather kind of around the kid's neck, and holding the kid himself up to his chest, to do the thing I'm gonna point the gun to his head type of deal.
I have him holding a claw around his neck, and the claw is starting to glow because in the Game Boy portrayals, the pirates open their claws and fire like that from their claws. So just have him with a glowing claw around the kid's throat, if you shoot me, I'm gonna blow his head off.
I guess you could. I hadn't thought of them having shooty claws. Anyway, so then he would grab the kid to be okay, I've got the hostage, don't kill me, and looks around for a second and doesn't see her, and then she appears out of nowhere, kind of from below him, with her arm cannon shooting straight up into his face, physically, she's punching him, while at the same time firing an energy beam, and just blasts his head off before he can pull the trigger on his gun. Having done this, he, falls over dead and drops the kid. So
who is traumatized for life because of the fountain of gore that just spilled on his face.
Little bit. She catches the kid, puts him down, and then we see it from her perspective with the visor. Beep, 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 all enemies neutralized or something. And then we see the kid who's just kind of, standing there kind of freaking out quietly and looks up at Samus who is this robot person? Are you one of the bad guys maybe? And Samus looks down at him and then gets on one knee and takes the helmet off.
And there's another helmet underneath it!
No. We see Samus's face. Who, by the way, has to have short hair. They always have this long ponytail Samus. I'm that doesn't fit under the helmet, guys.
Yeah,
She doesn't... And by the way, also, Samus does not care about looking hot. I'm going to say this right now. I'm not going to do anything in this trilogy about, look how sexy Samus is. Let's have Samus in a sexy suit where, the thing goes all the way around and under her boobs so you can see what shape they are. Or, any of this crap. No, she's a warrior. We're just going to treat her like a warrior who happens to be female.
Right. Don't even give her any makeup. Just make her caked in sweat.
Right. No makeup.
Have her bleeding from her cheek just because she smacked her head against the side of her.
You might, yeah. Though that would imply she was slightly out of control at one point. I think I would save that for later in the movie when she has more formidable opponents. But anyway, yeah, she'd be in sweat. She doesn't care what you look like. But she does, give the appearance of being human. And by the way, for anyone who's not played the Metroid games, this is your moment to be that was a girl, But she comforts the boy, and he just latches onto her, that sort of 5-year-old boy hug thing, Mm-hmm. So she picks him up, and goes to the console. And I want the arm cannon to be multifunctional. So she does this. It does zaps the computer a little bit, and it's accessing it. Sort of like R2-D2 when he zaps computers, mm-hmm. right? And she grabs some data, this little glowy data cube or sphere or something, and puts it in the arm. And then walks out of the room, holding the boy. Neither of them have said anything, but we just see the corpses of the space pirates lying around, and she just calmly walks away. And then, title, Samus, the Empty Fortress. Which, it is empty now, isn't it? Though that's not the fortress we're referring to, but that's what you think it is at the moment. And then the whole opening credit sequence is her walking down the path of death she carved to get to that room. And, at one point, you see, from the boy's perspective, he sort of looks over his shoulder, and his eyes widen a bit, and you see, this bit of huge claw, And then we see a zoom out. Samus calmly walks past this giant monster that she killed on the way in. And the boy's just like looking at it and looks back at her like, what the hell? And then at one point they're on an elevator and she whispers to him, "Where is home?" And he apparently tells her, whispering back,
"I am so freaking lost."
No. And they get on her gunship and they fly to like his home planet. She gives him to the parents and then like immediately leaves and accesses that data thing again, and then finds like map coordinates on it and goes into their version of hyperspace, or the warp as they call it, which is also what they call it in Warhammer 40k. No real connection. To go investigate that thing. So we've established Samus as a badass there. We've established the pirate's fear of her. We established that she's a woman and that she, has a human side underneath the robotic exterior and everything.
Did we establish why it was so important that they sent like apparently a legion of pirates to kidnap this kid, or were they just being assholes?
I'm pretty sure. Well, I guess I could get in more details of that, but I'm guessing my vague thought was that they had a base for a larger purpose, and at one point they thought, oh, people might know where the base is. Well, let's have some hostages. Because
here's a better thought.
Yeah,
like she's going there on rescue operations because the pirates are experimenting on humans.
Oh, maybe they could. Yeah,
humans in general, just not just this one kid, just like.
Then the kid would probably be in a lab or something. Logically speaking.
That's what I kind of assumed that this place was.
Okay, could be. So then we move into
the pirates just kidnapping one child. That just seems a little. Look, in Metroid Prime 3, the pirates had a planet-spanning base that was mining phazon for use in interstellar warships.
Right. Well, all right.
And they were constructing leviathans so that they could conquer even more portions of the universe with the help of phazon. Kidnapping a child just for its own sake seems a bit of a step down for them.
I didn't say it was just for its own sake. I imagine it was part of a larger scheme, and maybe we would explain next scene, but maybe you just leave it there kind of because, we don't need to. Or maybe she explains it to the Federation troopers after they have a conversation later on in this movie. So the question here is, how much of this am I changing on the fly as I tell you all? Because I keep having new ideas for this. But part of the idea is that the space pirates had located this giant space station called Nova Te that had belonged to some other alien race, not the Chozo or whatever.
Oh, not the Chozo.
Not the Chozo, I know.
That's a very nice change of pace.
Yeah. And that had, they had gone extinct, apparently.
Like everyone else. Goddamn guys.
So, and this space station had these warp enhancers that could be used to mess around with the warp. Which are kind of like what we have as our hyperdrives, but more powerful and weirder and all this. And one of the things they did is there are these natural things called warp storms that you have to avoid, right? Well, this thing, it built a warp storm around itself as a mode of protection. Nobody can approach you via hyperspace, except via this one narrow corridor that you normally cannot track or sense, right? Mm-hmm. So the pirates had found out that whether this thing is there, and they want to get in there and take all their technology, all this ancient, cool technology and whatever. Meanwhile, the Federation has also recently figured it out through a similar way. I guess maybe they also raided a pirate base and found the same information. So Samus shows up in the warp storm and starts plowing through this corridor, which is like a weird maze type thing. You have to take turns and don't touch the storms you go through. And she runs into this small platoon of Federation soldiers. They got this one ship, and they see Samus and she sees them, but they don't know who she is, and they assume that she must be the space pirates come to claim their property or something.
Wait, space pirates? You mean the Federation doesn't show them pictures of what their main enemy looks like?
There's a small discussion about that. Well, it doesn't look like a pirate ship. Well, it's in pirate territory. We knew they were sending someone. Maybe they hired someone to do their work for them. I'm not taking any chances.
Okay, that's better. Just because it's like, look, a space pirate! Yeah, because she looks like a giant bug monster.
Well, the other thing that happens is as they're doing this, they try to establish radio contact, but the storm, around them is messing that up. And at one point, Samus notes they're about to take a wrong turn, right? Because there's like multiple paths in this weird maze thing.
Whenever you're using directions, just say correct instead of right.
Well, I said wrong in this case. So
wrong turn. You said wrong turn, right? So.
No, when I said right, I meant. Oh, did I say right with a question mark at the end? I thought I meant left or right. Okay.
Whatever.
She's taking the wrong turn. So she she cannot contact them on radio, but fires a signal flare essentially. Now the signal flare barely passes them, and the captain freaks out and says they fired on us. And so they try to exchange fire. They both get through the end of the corridor though, because the scientist there's all these soldiers and there's one scientist guy who's not normally with the military, but they needed him because he was the only guy they could find that knew this much about warp storms. So he's there at the controls, telling people, okay, do this and that and fire the engines to 20% or something. And he figures out that it's a signal flare halfway, just before they're about to die. So they get through and they get through and they're through. And then they get back into normal space and they see this giant space station. They keep shooting at Samus because they still think she's the enemy. And in this great little moment where she's really just bobbing and weaving, not firing back at all as their guns are going back and forth. And they have these two gunners on the back of the ship with independent turrets that are trying to follow her around. And at one point she sort of flies alongside the ship and then does a sharp brake and falls back from along the ship. So the two gunners wind up facing each other all of a sudden for a moment, having just moments before turned off the safeties, so they could track her more quickly. And just as she's doing that, the her radio signals are going through, and she's giving them their ID code up front. And the captain's all like, "The ID code checks out. Cease fire!" Just as she does that, and the two guys are facing each other. Aye, Captain.
Yes. Good thing we obeyed his orders so quickly, and it was totally us following orders and not anything else.
Right. So our right. What was the name of the commander guy we didn't like in Metroid Other M? Adam. Okay, let's go with Alan or something for this guy. I wanted a Federation guy, and I just had that name in my head, but that's the wrong guy.
Let's do something else.
Let's do... I don't know what you want. Alex, if we're going with the A names.
Makan.
That's a pretty good name. All right, so Captain Makan.
I was going to go with Maconger, but that was taken by Schlock Mercenary for the name of one of their guerrilla mercenaries. But Makan works because it's not an obviously Western name.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So Captain Makan, realizes, okay, she's registered by the ID code, but still not entirely sure whether Samus is to be trusted. In the meantime, the freaking corridor closes behind them.
Why?
Which was not because they fired on it. They were shooting at Samus back when they were in the thing, right? And then some of these things hit the walls and it started collapsing as they were going, which they didn't realize would happen. So
they have to turn these things off in order to get out of the station.
So they need to turn off the generators, in order to get out of the thing.
Oh, but if they turn it off, then the pirates will know immediately and they'll swarm with a fleet, leaving.
Potentially. Now, so in my original version of this, I actually had this as a pirate station that had been halfway abandoned, and then I went, no, we'll make it another alien race so they can both approach the station. So add into that somewhere, either using the same corridor or using a different corridor, I'm not sure. But pirates have approached the station from the same time, and they wind up coming at it from another angle, right? Along with there's one two-man support ship, like a scout ship or something, along with this main ship that contains 20 people. Yeah. So the energy fields or whatever near these generators get really unstable, and it gets hard to fly the ships. So everyone's like, okay, well, the one way we can stabilize is just by docking with the actual structure of the thing. So they dock. In the meantime, that's two-man ship gets damaged by space pirate fire. So they are also forced to dock because otherwise they were running out of air. And they try to dock in an uninhabited area. And the space pirates also dock. Okay, now we need to dock. First off, to turn off these things. And secondly, to go rescue our two men that are closer to the space pirates than we are. They might be captured. So there's some distrust between the Federation and Samus. And basically they have to team up. And they have to get all the way down to the core area and figure out how to turn this thing off. And they have to bring the scientist guy along with them, who really didn't sign up for this. He thought it was a reconnaissance mission. They go see if it was there and then turn around. But turns out you can't turn around anymore. And I like him to provide a counterpoint to the militaristic way everyone else is dealing with each other. He's just like, are you serious? Really? I did not being paid for this, you know?
As had debris speculated that, during the Dominion War, all those scientists who signed up for, like, most of the people you meet in Star Trek are, like, scientists and stuff. And during the Dominion War, all the scientists were just increasingly unhappy, like, I didn't want to join. I didn't sign up to fight my alien super monsters. I just wanted to be a botanist.
Something like that, without making it annoying, you know.
Well, yeah, but that was just for joking purposes.
And I wanted McCann to have a female second in command because I'm going to pass the Bechdel test, for crying out loud. So give me a female name.
Let's
go with...
Not Sharai, because that's the name of Daniel Jackson's wife in Stargate.
Okay.
And, you know, I'd really like it if this one was not infested with an alien cranial parasite. Note to self, note that as a way so that she could possibly die.
It could just be a last name while we're at it, like Alyak. That doesn't sound Western. There you go. So Alyak provides us with another female character, so we can actually pass the Bechdel test. Thank you. And some of these people might be a female otherwise, like those two men I mentioned. Maybe they're two women. I don't know. So part of the plot structure is they overcome these challenges bit by bit, and then they'll get like on a transport or something to take them to the next area of the station, and it gives Samus time to recount her backstory in one or another private moment with somebody else. So we see this in, I guess, 3 sections. And this is part of her culture, by the way, is it's important to share stories with fellow warriors. And as she becomes to trust them a little more, not like on her level, but like we can work together, she says, okay, I'll share my story if you want me to. Go ahead, what were you saying?
Idea. For the storytelling scene, she wanders towards a window, and there's a destroyed pirate ship out there because earlier the pirates had tried to get through to here, but it's been destroyed by defenses.
Okay.
She's staring at the pirate ship. It's like broken in half and destroyed. And then it switches to flashback mode and shows the ship completely whole, and it's descending upon a colony. And it's like dropping fighters, and it shows Samus's first-person view as like a little girl, and there's pirates dropping down, and they're like impaling people with energy swords. And firing lasers.
Pretty much.
Her parents are trying to shove her into this little hidey hole cave thing, and then you hear this roar, and you see a giant winged mechanical dragon fly overhead,
like a big old Ridley.
Well, no, it's not like a big old Ridley. It is a big old.
Oh, okay. I didn't know how mechanically you meant.
It's Ridley flying overhead, and he's like just.
Yeah. By the way, my structure for things is normally they say either Ridley or Mother Brain or one of the bosses is in charge of the pirates. I like the idea of the pirates being in charge of themselves, and they have built their Ridleys and their Mother Brains as weapons. And we're going to get the whole thing of almost the philosophy of Mother Brain in movie 2. Also, I don't like just plain old speciesism, like every one of this species is evil.
Yeah.
So there's a whole backstory to that too, actually, where essentially their homeworld is Zebes. I know that's not normally their homeworld, but I like the sound of it. And they're basically a species where the Nazis took over the world. So this one evil tribe, which I totally named the Carracks, even though that's a Homestar Runner reference, and I thought of it.
Homestar Runner?
Carrack, yeah. And then Trogdor smote the Carrack, and all was laid to burn a nation.
Oh, it's also a Homeworld reference.
Oh, really? I don't know Homeworld.
Yeah.
All right, so the Carracks. Basically, they took over, and they don't allow anyone to leave the planet without, proving their loyalty to, the Carracks, to the Nazis. So out in space, if you ever see a member of this species, which I called them like the Zangri, I think, then they're always evil, because the good guys are all back at home under lock and key, essentially, because the Nazis took over their planet.
Okay, 2 things. One, there's an interesting connection to both Homeworld and Mass Effect there.
Oh.
But I'm chewing right now, so...
So, should I go on or let you wait?
Hang on.
All right.
Interestingly, the inhabitants of the planet Higara were once became a species of space Nazis who were trying to conquer the whole of the universe because they found one of the 3 hyperspace cores, until they were imprisoned on the planet Carrick.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Until they, got better from being evil and stuff, refound the hyperspace cores and tried to exit their home star system. Problem. There was an ancient treaty that they didn't know about that said if the Hegarians ever leave Carrick, nuke it to shit. So yeah, that happens.
Okay.
And in Mass Effect, the same thing that's very similar to how the Batarians operate. The Batarians are pretty much one of the main mook bad guy races. They have like the worst reputation.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because the hegemony is extremely isolationist and xenophobic, so that anyone who does leave has to leave illegally and thus is at least some part a criminal. So most of the people you see off of their homeworld, they're not there because they're supposed to be there.
Interesting. Okay. So Samus tells the story of her childhood, and a lot of things that happens with strong female characters is that there's some sort of strong male character in the background who taught them everything they know or something. And I said, screw that. There was no male character in the background at all. In fact, her father was a deadbeat. He left the family when she was like 5, and she barely remembers him. So she was raised by her mother, and around the age of 8 or 9, their homeworld got attacked by space pirates in this massive raid, kind of like what you were describing. Mm-hmm. And during this flashback sequence, you learned something about Samus that you weren't expecting, but it totally fits so well. She was born with a birth defect, and her right arm is not as long as it should be, and her right hand is shriveled. It's like this blue thing. It's nimble, she can use it, but it's not very strong. She can't like lift a heavy weight with it or something. Which first off gives her this wonderful visual difference from everyone else in the world, right? Mm-hmm. Secondly, it's yay for handicapped people in the midst of our feminist message. And third, it's this great symbol for how she overcomes the limitations of circumstance through the use of her will. That she built a freaking arm cannon around that hand and makes it the most powerful thing that she's got,
As long as it's not more than 2 feet away.
Yes, well, she's got a better one in this show.
Movie.
So yeah, I just love. I want to see adult Samus later with. Well, I have this teaser in mind. It'd be great. You'd have it at Comic-Con or something, and from the perspective of people there, what they're seeing is like sort of this sandstone area, and up on this large stone feature, there's a woman who's meditating. And we see that one of her hands is all shriveled. And then she gets up and starts doing sort of a Tai Chi thing, like going through poses and all this, and becoming increasingly like powerful and speedy about it. And then they just show like a flash of her in another scene in that same pose with the armor on. And if you see just like part of her arm at one point, and then part of the leg, and the whole audience is going like, wait, is this Samus? And then you come completely to that other scene, and she's charging up the cannon, that was previously a shriveled arm a couple seconds ago, and then blows up the camera, essentially, and it just says, Samus, the movie, coming soon. Everyone would be like, what? And it'd be awesome. So pirates attacked. She was fleeing with her mother. She's in front of her mother at one point, sort of like leading her with a hand. And then you see the two of them in silhouette. The sun has cast their shadows against this wall. And suddenly there's this terrible noise. And little Samus spins around with a look of horror, and you don't actually see it per se, because it's so much better if you don't show it. But then we see that silhouette again, and her mother is just missing her head, like it just got blown off by a laser beam or something, And little Samus, like you just see the hand let go of the other hand as the corpse falls to the ground,
and then gets back up because zombie Samus's mom is attacking the pirates.
Samus's mom.
No, wait, I'm sorry. It can't be a zombie because the head's gone. The brain is already destroyed.
Right. No. So then she goes into hiding, pirates kill a whole bunch of people, scavenge everything, and there's a scene as they're leaving, just like the last couple ships are heading out. There's one straggler pirate is looking to see if there's anything more can be scavenged from like a dump heap or something. And little Samus comes around the corner wielding this laser cannon that's clearly too big for her. And just, like, barely lifts it in his direction. And just as he's kind of turning to see what's that over there, boom, loses his head. And it's not the same guy that killed her mom. She never actually gets revenge on that specific guy. It's not like the six-fingered man and all this stuff. Real life doesn't always work that way. But she got, like, some small measure of defiance. And this is the beginning of her life as a warrior. Then a Chozo ship lands. That has shown up out of humanitarian concern, like, oh,
and
dear.
Samus takes the laser cannon. There's just a bit too big for her and kills all the Chozo. No! And now we know why the Chozo went extinct.
No. And the Chozo welcome on board. And she's hesitant at first. They offer some food, and then she like grabs it and eats it very hungrily because she's been half starved on the streets. And then they bring her into the ship, and I have this Chozo language that's basically all vowels and it's a lot more cool when I do it, and a little bit bird-like, of course, while we're at it.
And not like a drunken howler monkey.
Yes, not like a drunken howler monkey.
There needs to be a language that sounds like a drunken howler monkey.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, that was from famous Chozo philosopher Tarzan.
Oh dear. So they do this, like you can't see the arm movements I'm doing, but very fluid and graceful and stuff. And they have a computer that translates for them. And the computer asks them in text, "Where is home?" Which is the same question she asked the little boy at the beginning.
¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
No! But she just shakes her head to be like, I have no home. The home has been blown up. Everyone's dead.
Hey, assholes. You see the smoldering crater that you got here too late to stop? That was my home.
Yeah. Oh, which, by the way, there was
She flips him off with the little scrawny mutant hand.
By the way, there was a Federation thing with that, in that there was a small contingent of Federation soldiers around, and they were overwhelmed by the Space Pirate Force.
Emotionally overwhelmed. I can't take it anymore. We have to go on break.
Overwhelmed by the Space Pirate Force, and so they were ordered to retreat with as many evacuees as they could get. So they grabbed as many people as they could, but basically couldn't save even a tenth of the people who were there, and took off. And Samus always felt like they're not evil for having abandoned me. Like, I don't hate them, but they did fail to save my mother. They failed to save my planet. And so I don't really love them either. And that's her feeling towards the Federation, which mellows out a little over the course of this movie. So that's the first bit of flashback. The second bit is her growing up with the Chozo and her training. And they talk about how I love this great like sort of forum area. Of course, everything the Chozo do is sort of grand architecture and very sort of mystic and all this.
Except for the parts which are blocks that can be destroyed by the screw attack or bombs. Or
yeah, we don't have those anymore. Yeah.
Why do we build these things? That always confused me in Metroid Prime. Why the Chozo have so many ball-shaped slots that you have to detonate explosives inside of just to open the door. Yeah. Okay, in order to get to the bathroom, you need to make a triple jump off of this wall. You need to do the space jump over to that window. Shoot that window with the purple laser beam, and then drop a bomb here. Then you open up the women's restroom. Once in there, you press the button, and that opens the men's room. Good luck.
Yeah, we're not going to have that. They do have this array of statues, though, that represent some great heroes from Chozo lore, and each one of them represents a role. Like, there's one is the scientist, one is the diplomat, one is the warrior or hunter. There's a coming-of-age ceremony where you're supposed to choose one or possibly more of these as your role in life. And she mentioned some people, they choose like two things and they do both of those. But for me, there was never any doubt. I was to be a warrior.
I was to be a scientist.
No.
But that was taken, so I had to be a warrior.
And then I want to do this bit. This would be great. And it wouldn't even come up to like maybe the second movie, we'll mention it offhand. But the Chozo that represents being a warrior is holding a sword. Can you guess the Chozo's name? I don't know if you can.
Steve.
No. It has
Walter Cronkite.
It's a thing to do with the very first Metroid game and the password system.
Oh, it was that... Not Narpa's sword, it was...
Narpa's sword, that's it. The Chozo's name, translated into the English tongue, is Narpa. And Narpa's sword is like, the embodiment of heroism in their culture. And the way it's typed out, it's all like one thing. So a lot of people thought maybe it's NAR password, like North American release or something. Which maybe that's what it meant to be. But I just love that, no, it's Narpa's sword. And we make a reference to the very first game that way. I think it's cool. So she does all this training stuff, and there's this whole epic ceremony to be like officially graduated not a ceremony, an epic test, I should say, where they show her like this token, and you have to retrieve it from something or other that has it. We're not even gonna tell you what your challenge is.
Okay, the challenge is to make a triple jump off of that wall while then using the space jump. Once you're in the men's room, then the real challenge begins, because you have to find which toilet has the button inside of it.
No. I have her.
Oh, come on!
When she goes to face the challenge, she has to jump into this huge long cavern. It's very dark. And it's a moment of courage. And you fall and fall and fall, and she falls into water. And then it's to crawl up into these very dark, wet caverns, and there's a couple skeletons lying around here and there. And she eventually encounters these crazy beasts that are so cool in my head. I hope I can explain it, basically. Imagine like a spider, and then like it's duct taped to the back of another spider. So it's got legs crawling out in both directions, up and down.
Oh, okay.
And they live in this world of caverns where there's always stuff to grab onto in both sides, right? It's all these networks of tunnels and stuff, and they're all just always twisting around and everything, and they're huge, and all this craziness. And in my head, they have this crazy, weird sense of movement to them, much even weirder than a regular spider. So she has to like fight her way through all these. A whole bunch of cool tricks, not just like, killing everything that she sees, but also getting away from them, hiding. And one of them has the token like strapped to it, and it like backs off into this one cavern at one point, and then Samus's arms just reach down from the ceiling because she's like attached herself to the ceiling by her legs, so she can just gently drift down and grab the thing, and then running again, and they're all chasing,
and the planet explodes,
and she has to put the thing into this slot that shows that she wins.
So she has to steal a thing. She has to steal a quarter from a bug and then play the sacred slot machine.
That would be the crappy way of saying it. Yes,
but I excel at creating the crappy way of saying
you
things.
do. So that's the second bit. The third bit is the disappearance of the Chozo. Because they didn't die out in my version. They went away in this weird mystic mission that not even Samus entirely understands.
I told you, Chozo Fred. I told you to pack the maps, but no, you had to get us lost. Now we'll never get back. Look, we're not even in the Milky Way anymore. You jerk. Nobody likes you.
Yep. No, but they do this huge ceremony thing with all the Chozo. It's mentioned that after a certain year, they intentionally stopped having children. So they would all be adults by the time of the awakening. And they do this huge, it looks like a massive Tai Chi sort of thing, but they're passing this energy back and forth between them and building it up, and finally they all vanish. And for the second time in her life, Samus is left all alone.
You couldn't have left a ship, you bastards!
Well, she has built a ship and built her armor by that point. So my feeling is she handcrafted it, but with help of Chozo like guidance on basic principles. And there's a whole montage of this. She's building it. And so basically we get through all these challenges. I did have Ridley. My original version had Ridley just as an inhabitant of the station from the beginning, and he's just been living there. Like, he's just super powered. He doesn't even need food.
Have him be one of these species that built the station.
Yeah, maybe he's a member of the species.
And then the pirates capture bits of his DNA and have cyborg versions clone cyborg versions of him as bad guys and other.
Yeah, that could be cool. Movies. I had this great notion of him just stalking everybody, and he's so huge And at one point, bursts out a wall, and like the air goes sucking out, and they all have to like use the grapple beam to like get back into the station and crap. It gets near the end. Oh, and the pirates capture those two guys I mentioned earlier, who were on another part of the station. And this is part of our thing. We have to really, really demonstrate the pirates are evil. This is important to me. So we kidnapped a child at the beginning. Now they kidnap these two guys who actually surrender. Like, they're in like an air vent or something, and they realize they're surrounded, right? They're going to capture us anyway. So they put down their guns, and they say, oh, we surrender. Then the pirates grab them and start torturing the crap out of them, and broadcasting their torture to our heroes just to be dicks about it.
No, look.
They are Nazis, after all.
The pirates may be evil, but they always struck me as a race that wouldn't do cruelty for cruelty's sake. They'd be experimenting on them.
Well, you could do that,
and then broadcasting there.
I could do that.
That way they're doing useful research while at the same time, pissing the hell out of guys.
If we're gonna make them experimenting on humans in the first scene, that would tie in very well with this new idea. Yeah. Anyway, but I had them broadcasting, not just to kick the dog, but in the sense that this is how they do intimidation. They always want the enemy to know we are very fierce.
Which makes sense. Any enemy that's too scared to fight you is one that
you don't have to fight.
Yeah.
So we get the signal. We hear what they're doing here. And we also know that we need to have access to that control room without the pirates interfering with us. Or they could do any number of terrible things and shut down the air from our section or whatever. Mm-hmm. So Samus gets on the intercom. And this is a great scene. She has like everyone else go hide off in that corner for a second. And the idea is the pirates will come to me, and then you go around using like the path they just used, going back behind them while they're fighting me, basically. But takes off her helmet, pulls up like the intercom thing.
Wait, I know the perfect speech. Hello, space station! Who takes the warp generators takes the universe! But bad news, pirates! Because guess who has them? Except you lot, you're whizzing about in your spaceships, who if you can hold still for a moment, because I am...
Yeah. That is Doctor Who, and it was great in that context. But for Samus, I love this idea.
Yeah, I know. It wouldn't be the 11th Doctor being his arrogant self. But...
Samus gets on the line and speaks to them in their language, right? Because being the devoted huntress that she is, she learned the language of the enemy, so she can eavesdrop on them and stuff. And there's no subtitles or whatever. You just see her just keeps doesn't lose control, right? But gets fierce in her having of control. And clearly the space pirates are getting more and more agitated as they're listening to this. And near the end, she challenges them in mentioning her name. And incidentally, you find out that the Spice Pirates do it Japanese style. They put the last name first. Why not? So it becomes like, Uksha Aran Mukchuk Samus Shanistarak. And it's like the ultimate insult to them or whatever, like the big challenge.
Wait, Samus Aran and Turok the Dinosaur Hunter are coming? Yeah. Oh god, run for your lives!
But I love this too.
Is that Japanese? Because it sounded Japanese. The whole thing.
I didn't mean it for it to sound Japanese. But I love this idea. By revealing her name at the end of the speech, they really get riled up because she has killed so many space pirates. So they all come just swarming into this room. Just a horde like climbing over each other practically. They're so eager to kill her. And they all like run into this big empty space. And for a moment, she's not there. And then the lights go off. And then the spot they were running for explodes. Because she, like, laid a mine or something.
Power bomb.
So
show this massive expanding shockwave, go out, and then stop, and then shoot back towards the inside, and it sucks all the pirates in, and they're just crushed into goo.
You could do that, but it would only have them kill some of the pirates.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to have this battle scene. So she kills some of them in that first volley, and if that thing goes out and shrinks... By the time it shrinks, she's already killing them in the background. And, like, on your second viewing, you'd be like, holy shit, she's already... And she just has this wonderful fluidity about her, in my mind. Where, again, she is always moving. She's in the thick of things. Every time she moves a limb, like an elbow is hitting someone in the face, or she's shooting someone. Or, like, some guy pulls a gun on her, and she, like, dodges around him, sort of, and grabs his body and moves him in the range of someone else's gun, so that guy shoots his buddy, and one fluid motion, she throws the corpse onto that guy, and then shoots the next guy, and just does not stop for anything. Does not, like, try to show off, doesn't, like, pull a charge attack and let me deliver a one-liner and then I'll kill you. No, just freaking killing them all the time. And it's just so freaking epic. And I don't even know how you would, like, animate, like, how would you do this? Would you film this? Because then you would kill a bunch of actors as you were doing it. You could try animating it, but you have to have that fluid sense, because if it feels like it's choreographed, like move number 1, move number 2, move number 3, you know, then it feels fake. I don't want it to be like the space pirates are coincidentally jumping into her. I want it to be like she is just so good at reacting to every little thing that they do. They just can't get a beat on her. So basically, as she's killing them all, everyone else gets successfully to the control room, and they're messing around with things, And, and we related to this earlier species that made this whole place, was experimenting on these things called Metroids. Oh dear. There's like tanks of them and stuff. And Metroids, it turns out, can travel through warp. They're one of the few creatures with a natural hyperdrive. Fuck, yeah. So what happens is we have to, like, activate, you know, the emergency thingamajigs to, like, overpower, you know, the other thingamajig. So we turn off the warp storm finally. But then it goes too far, and it opens a freaking rift, and thousands of Metroids spill out. Like, oh, holy crap, there's a reason that had a warning sticker on that button type of thing.
Wait, so the Metroids live in warp?
Yeah, or something.
Oh, I thought they were on the station in, like, this big holding tank or something.
Yeah, actually, I played with both ideas. Maybe both. Either way, so maybe they are on the station, and we end up warping them away, you know, accidentally as we're doing this, and then we warp them back, but not directly to the tanks, just to outside a control room. Oh, crap. So there's this epic amount of Metroids coming, and basically the only way we can close this rift, somehow this would be established earlier, is you have to get, like, this one, you know, energy crystal thing that was at the core of the station and put that into the rift. There's 1,000 Metroids in the way. So now that the emitters are turned off, our ships can fly again. Samus gets the thing, gets, you know, up on what's going on, grabs this crystal thing, calls her gunship, does this epic thing where she's running and running as the gunship is coming towards her from the other side of the station. Metroids are breaking in everywhere, trying to eat her, trying to eat everyone. She jumps onto the ship, she gets the crystal, she shoots straight through the rift, just as, you know, all hell's about to break loose, which closes the rift, sucks the Metroids back into it, and then sends her in this blind tumble, and the ship is, like, starting to fall apart and stuff, because you're messing with warp drive the way it's not supposed to work. And just as she's, you know, tumbling, and it looks like, you know, maybe she'll die, and her helmet falls off at one point during all this, we see a shot from outside the windshield, and you see Samus, you know, like, falling over and kind of bleeding and stuff, and you just see from off camera the wafting of a wing on the outside of the ship. And she looks up, and it's a Chozo in, like, ghost form thing. And and then, like, hundreds of them appear, and this factors into this larger plot about the beast of the warp, and the Chozo are on this larger mystic mission, basically to restore the balance of the universe and stuff. So while she's there in crisis, they were able to help her out, and they stabilize her, and she pops out like 100 light years away or something, but she's okay. And we see the people on our end. I've contacted the Federation. They're sending in ships to help, and we're kind of freaking out. Are we okay? Is everyone okay? Where's Samus? Did she die? And suddenly the guy announces, "Oh, wait, look over here!" And the captain, by this point, has made friends with Samus and like vaults over something and finds just a text message. I'm alive or something. There'd be like some cleverer way of saying that based on, you know, what they'd established earlier. Some military term she picked up from him. Like some acronym that means we have lost nobody in battle, right? So she would say that to me, like, I'm alive. And he would just reply, and we'd see it on her screen, happy hunting. You know, like, she's not joining up with him permanently type of thing. I'm not going to be your servant or whatever, but we respect each other as fellow warriors now. And basically she just, you know, flies off into the credits. And that was the first movie. So it might take me a while to go through movies 2 and 3. I don't know if you have time.
I do not.
No, yeah. I'm still working on these plots anyway, so maybe one of these days I'll actually write it all down properly, and then I can recite it to you in a less rambly way.
But that's half the reason we do this shit.
Yeah, that's half the reason. But I hope the most important thing to me was really taking Samus as a character and exploring what it means to be a warrior and exploring her sense of isolation without being lonely and without being antisocial. But she still has something to learn about how these Federation people do deserve her trust and respect, and they help, they save each other's lives and stuff like this. And you notice I made it as a movie. The game should be a game with the upgrades and all this stuff, because the upgrades are fun as gameplay. The movie should be a movie. Skip the upgrades. It doesn't even make sense. Just, we have these bad guys to fight, and now we fight them, and we establish these things as we go along. And we just show her awesome. And we don't do anything sexy. I'm not saying sex is automatically bad, but, like, every time there's a female character, someone's like, well, what is she like if she's naked? You know what? I'm not even going there. Samus is asexual. I'm going to make her the first major asexual character anyone's ever heard of. Or officially asexual character. I guess some of them might be implicit. And why not? And now it'll be yay for women, feminism, yay for handicapped people, and yay for asexual people.
Well, she's handicapped. She probably has scars all over her body out the wazoo. If you want big... I'm just speaking purely scientifically here. If you want big breasts, she's not likely to have them because A, she's cramming herself in form-fitting body armor all the time. That wouldn't be comfortable. And B, she's super active all the time, and breasts are comprised largely of fat. The more active you are, the smaller your breasts are.
I have never heard that. Interesting.
Okay, there's also factors of genetics and
I imagine,
things
yeah.
in there. So there are like people there are women who have large breasts or who are very active, but
in general, maybe I suppose
yeah.
So. But yeah. I'm totally not. You notice there.
I think that's how it is.
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, I was gonna say. You notice how she establishes a friendship with a male colleague, also that female colleague I mentioned. But nothing romantic or sexual ever happens. In a lesser movie, it'd be like, oh man, now it's really hot. I guess we have to strip down out of our clothes because it's so hot. Let's have a we're nearly naked scene or some shit. And I don't want to do that at all.
First off, that wouldn't happen in a Metroid movie. And do you know why?
Why?
Because Samus is obviously wearing the Varia suit. It can
yeah, that's true.
You can stand inside of an area that is entirely full of frozen stuff, or right next to a pit of lava. So what's the point?
Yeah, that's true.
Like the gravity suits in some games can survive being submerged entirely in lava.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, that wouldn't necessarily. We don't mean this. They would have to have an excuse to be sexy.
We have to have an armor up because no, I'm fine. See, I got AC in here. Give me your armor. No. I want air conditioning. Damn it.
Yeah. But yeah. So I didn't want to do anything along those lines. Just skip it. Just let me understand her as a character and a warrior, and learn about her past and her present and her future. And have everyone go through some character development and be awesome, but in a way you have to earn your awesomeness. This is kind of the lesson I'm getting to. It has to be based on stuff that works and not just how many things can we explode. That's called a Michael Bay film, and they suck. They do. They really freaking suck. I want this to win awards if all possible. I want to do it right.
Yeah.
And same thing with the next two movies, which involves going to Zebes. And a whole bunch of stuff happens there. I won't even get into the details. And whatever, a whole bunch of things. She meets her father eventually in just a short scene. He's not extremely important. She just gets to meet him. And okay, you're still a deadbeat. And I'm awesome. Moving on. Without saying it that way. And eventually this whole beast of the warp thing that I alluded to forms the backbone of our 3-movie plot. And eventually that gets all resolved. And it's awesome. And Samus leads an awesome life. And it's inspiring. And awesome.
You mentioned that once or twice.
I think I did. Tried hard to summarize everything. Okay. I guess that's about it.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to such a long video. Hour and a half.
Yeah. Oh, well. I guess we're done then?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Sith King.
And I'm Sonic Sons.
We're signing off.